I understand your point of view. As a Muslim, this is easy to kind of understand and internalize. But in a society where like instant gratification, this society like is based on instant gratification. Anything you want is fast food, anything TV, and whatever you would like. It's if you have the means, then you can achieve it. So I think it's hard for this message to be able to relate to somebody that, for somebody, people have to like. My question is like, in a society where instant gratification is perverse, right? It's hard for people to understand this concept of kind of giving up certain things for a greater cause, because that is not something that is immediate. That's not something that you can achieve. If you do something right now, in the next 2 hours, I will gain something. Like the uncertainty of when you will die. Then, like even some people might have issues believing in the afterlife, etc. That is a gap that like it's hard for people to, I guess, cross over. So I was just wondering if you could address that aspect.
Yeah, sure. No, that's definitely that's something that everyone falls into, because humans naturally they tend to go in what is immediate, what is right there in front of you. And if you were to go and you were to ask somebody, look, I can give you $100 right now, or if you wait, you wait an hour, I'll give you, 150. There are people who actually think about it and say, I'll go with the 100. I don't want to wait. I don't have time to wait and all that stuff. I want it now because I don't know what's going to happen later on. That's something that's natural inside people, but they need to realize that, taking the same example that I gave about the mice and the drugs and the stimulation. If you think about all of that, if you think about just someone who takes drugs, what are they doing? They're going and they're messing themselves up for something, for instant gratification, because they want it right now. They want it right now, and they're not thinking about the consequences, they're not thinking about the future. And if you just expand that example to life, that's pretty much what life ends up becoming. If you can understand the rest of this paradigm, you can understand the rest of the purpose. Life becomes that way, where you just want it now, you want the euphoria now, whatever it takes, not thinking about the consequences. It's something that a lot of people get into. What can they do? They need to simply reflect upon what they really believe. One, reflect upon what they believe, and two, remove the bad character traits that are actually putting them into these things. What are some of the things you can do in reality, and I mean this seriously, is to discipline yourself from desires. If you're someone who becomes sensual, like I mentioned the principle of diminishing marginal utility, right? That where you eat one donut and then the 10th donut doesn't taste as good as the first, that doesn't apply in the realm of ethics on a long scale. That applies in one sitting. But in the long term, it doesn't apply. So if you're going and you're indulging yourself, you're engaging yourself in your desires, in sensuality, you're going and falling into all of these things, what you find on a normal level is that craving actually builds up over time. It doesn't decrease over time. So you find people who go into sensual things, they end up going higher and higher. So how do people get addicted, for example? No one comes along and just says, let me go do some crack. They start off with like a spliff, they start off with like marijuana, then they go up a little bit, ecstasy is really not that bad for you. My friend, he did some research on the internet, and these doctors, man, you can't trust these doctors, you know how wrong they are many times, it's not going to do anything. If you just take like once a month, you're going to be okay. And you start that, and then someone comes and, hey, you want to drop a LSD under your tongue, everything's going to be fine. Then you go, you build up. That's what happens, because you want more and more. That's the same way desires are. You start craving more and more. You don't just say, well, I have to have that top of the line car. Once you get your Honda, then you go and you get your BMW, then you get your Mercedes. You want more. You're not satisfied with it. What are you going to do then? You're going to buy a Lamborghini. Okay, then what? Buy a McLaren. I don't even know if it's legal in America. Right? You're going to buy a jet afterwards. You're going to fly in a stealth bomber or something. What are you going to do? So you're just not fulfilled. But the more you indulge in that and you let yourself go, the more you keep going and you're wanting more. So you have to discipline yourself. And disciplining yourself will actually bring some level of contentment, some level of rationality, some level of intellect back into your life to make you realize the big picture. And the big picture is what? The big picture is that you want long-lasting and better success, better happiness. You don't simply want to do something now that's going to feel good and then you're going to mess up everything else afterwards. But that's one of the things that you want to solve this problem that everyone falls into, is by disciplining yourself and not letting yourself become at that level of being so easy to, what can you say, be easy to be lured. So easy to be lured. You see something, you want it, and you have to have it right now. You know, can you wait? No, I have to have next day shipping because I need it now, man. I need it tomorrow. If they can ship it the same day, I'll pay whatever it costs. 5 times extra, it needs to come now. My book, I cannot wait 1 week, right? Even if it costs less. That level of discipline, you need to build it, and that's what's going to help you put things back into perspective, generally.
To kind of touch bases on that question, I thought that was a really brilliant question. Pretty much mainly pertaining to like your inner bestial, is that kind of like what you were talking about earlier, like things, unfortunately, that are haram, like, you know, alcohol, and that type of thing. What do you suggest for somebody that does something cold turkey? And I know sometimes that works for people, but then sometimes they stop and then they relapse, or opposed to somebody that would quit doing those things in moderation. What do you suggest would be more of a better way, or if you can kind of elaborate on the two?
The main question is like, should we go cold turkey, and should we, you know, how do we go about that? I mean, basically, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made a statement, a very interesting statement. He said, "Inna ahab al-a'mali illallah ma dama wa in qalla." He said that the most beloved actions to God are those which are done consistently, even if they be few. And he mentioned that even if they be few, those which are done consistently. Now, on this level, we're talking about actions. We're not talking about abstaining. But from the action perspective, if you want to start making a change in your life, you want to go do something more. You don't just go gung-ho and you like, okay, that's it. You know, I'm going to do it, and just 1 week I'm just going to blast it. Because you know, if you know you cannot keep that up, then what are you doing? You're not getting anywhere. It's very much like an exercise program. The vast majority, if you just look at statistics, vast majority of Americans who go on a diet plan, and we're talking about maybe a $1 trillion industry, a multi-billion dollar industry. The majority of people who go on diets, they completely fail. Why? Because they can't maintain that consistency. They can't work out consistency, they can't go on the diet with the level of consistency that they actually need. So one of the things he's saying here is that your consistent actions are more beloved to God, even if they be few. They're more beloved than what? Than those actions which are just done out of like a rush. You know, you just do it for a little while. For 2 reasons. Number one is because you're going to be more successful. You're going to be more successful, and that success is going to end up giving you something that's going to make God more pleased with you. And number two, because it's more difficult as well. It's more difficult to be consistent, and that's what brings you the success. But people don't realize that when you get on a high and you get in a rush like that, you get motivated sometimes, you can go do something for like 2 days, but you cannot try and keep it up for 2 months. It's more difficult than going and doing that rush for 2 days, because you have that rush. You don't have to have that level of discipline. That's the thing in terms of actions, in terms of doing it. So you should go and build up slowly and make sure you're consistent in what you do. In terms of leaving something, going cold turkey or not, there are a lot of people who can go cold turkey and they don't have a problem as long as it's not going to be detrimental to their health, for example. Like, you know, if they're advised that, you know what, you need to cut it down slowly because you've gotten to such a level where you're just going to die, you know. So you just bring it down a little bit. Not little bit doesn't mean like, okay, I need like a few years, you know. It's not a little bit, that's an excuse you're making for yourself. But like just take a little bit of time and like go down slowly. But if you can go cold turkey and you think that you cannot maintain it, you cannot maintain it, that lapse, right? You need to learn how to deal with the lapse. That doesn't mean you don't stop. You do stop immediately, but if you're going to have that lapse, the problem is what is triggering the lapse. So instead of, rather than looking and saying, well, it's because I didn't cut down slowly that I'm lapsing. No, that's not the real reason. That's what, you know, maybe some programs may explain it that way because they feel that it works better. But that's not the only explanation. The explanation for that coming back is you get out of the environment that it's bringing you back in that place. You get out of the friends that you're hanging out with that were bringing you back in that place. You remove them, you do everything in your power. Remove the money from your pocket so that you cannot go back and doing that. Throw your computer in the trash can if that's what was causing you to fall into something that's forbidden. Whatever it is, you go and do something that you stop yourself. So if you just go cold turkey and then you're still sitting in front, you know, you got like a bottle of wine right in front of you and you go, look, I completely stopped. You know, all that stuff is there and I'm just going to leave it there because, you know, it's worth money and it looks nice and all that. Get yourself out of that situation, and that's how you're not going to have that relapse.